This document is taken from SA's Chief Examiner's report from 2012. So we're going to go through Unit 2 and see what areas you need to watch for and what things you need to aim to do in each section of the paper. So in Foundation Tier, the title for writing was "The London Olympic Games Simply Aren't Worth the Cost," and you had to respond to that viewpoint by putting forward your own thoughts and views on that topic. The areas on this sheet which you should aim to do are highlighted in yellow. These are the things that the Chief Examiner pointed out were done well, and the areas which you need to make sure that you don't do are highlighted in orange, and these are the areas which the Chief Examiner said where candidates lost marks or where they answered poorly. So just make sure that you are watching out for the orange areas and that you're not making the same mistakes. So at the top right, the first aim is that they said that many gave competent responses and that consideration was given to both sides of the debate and that effective use was made of the stimulus material. However, it's important to point out here that you do not have to make use of the stimulus material. You don't have to use the actual words, phrases, facts, figures, whatever from the stimulus material in your response. It's a stimulus. If you choose to use it as part of your response or incorporate it into your response, that's fine, but you certainly wouldn't just copy it out. The second aim here is that a greater use was made of rhetorical devices. So we have been looking at those in class for some time now. If you're thinking about maybe using imagery or humour, alliteration, sibilance, onomatopoeia, direct speech, personal pronouns, inclusive pronouns, all the things that we've been looking at in class. So the examiner said that that was well done. And a variety of sentence structures. And again, this is something that we've been looking at in Unit 2 in Section B. The simple sentences, very complex sentences, varying your syntax, use of adverbs, use of commands, rhetorical questions, statements, all of those different things that you can do. And remember, there's a PowerPoint about sentence structure and paragraphing on the homepage of the website. Going on down the page, the examiners also said that able candidates flourished and engaged the reader successfully. In other words, their writing was interesting to read, it was lively, it was unique, there was development of their response, there was awareness of audience, whether it was a letter that you were writing to somebody, or you were writing an article, whatever the intended audience was. And unless they specify who the audience is, you presume that your intended audience is the examiner. So unless they specifically say who the person that you're writing a letter to, you just presume that it's the examiner. So therefore you're going to write in a formal way, very different as opposed to if you were writing for an audience of your peers. Watch out then for, I was referring to stimulus material earlier on, watch out for just using the stimulus material to bulk out your response. Again, you are not required to use this. Some people felt they had to use every bit of the stimulus material and just stuck it into their answer without really any thought, consideration or development of it. So just be careful for that. If you think something's relevant and you do agree with it and you feel you can develop it, by all means include it. What their specific words is that they say the additional material is intended to assist candidates in generating ideas and to provide some facts and opinions which candidates in bold may use to support the thoughts and opinions. So that is what the examiner expects from you. If every child is just using the stimulus material, it's going to make for very boring reading. A very important point to note here is that they want you to draw upon your individual knowledge and personal experiences. to make it unique. On down to watch out then, spelling. Certain spellings, and you have lists of commonly misspelt words with certain spellings that the examiners noticed, particularly a lot, definitely, ones we've talked about before, use and usings, all of those things. Just make sure that you're not making silly mistakes with commonly misspelt words, and of course you have lists of those as well. On to section B then in foundation tier, which was reading non-fiction, and this time they had an article about Facebook, and you've done this one in class. It was the Face Crook one, and you had to talk about how they had developed a sense of dangers that can result from the careless use of Facebook, and you had to talk about words and phrases and their tone that was used to alert the reader. Also had to refer to facts, opinions, sentence structure and paragraphing for effect. So in this one, what they highlighted as being good, able candidates developed their interpretations in a competent manner and an impressive level of accuracy in their use of technical vocabulary of critical analysis. What does that mean, you might ask? Well, they have your explanation here. They wanted to see you using your terms such as pun that was in the title, metaphor, simile, rhetorical question, alliteration, rule of three, hyperbole, all of those, that you are using those, you're giving examples of those, but more importantly, you are explaining the impact that that has on the audience, and you're referring back to the bullet points in the original question. They talked about the bullet points, that they were good for candidates for structuring responses. However, one area which is certainly problematic is the sentence structuring and paragraphing for effect. And again, I would encourage you to avoid just talking about lengths of sentences and number of paragraphs. We have worked on this in class before. As I said, your PowerPoint is on the homepage of the website. We're talking about the structure of the piece. How does it open? How does it end? As well as the types of sentences that I mentioned earlier. Some examples here of what you can do as well. They have said that you should comment on the effectiveness of the opening. So what was used in the opening, for example? Was there direct speech? Was it a particularly shocking opening? Was it dramatic? Was it funny? How was the piece opened? So your effectiveness of the opening, also your conclusion. And again, think about, can you tie those two together? Linked sentences, because are they using discourse markers furthermore, however, to tie your paragraphs together and to show development of the piece. And one sentence paragraphs for impact. And also looking for a variety of sentences, exclamatory, questions, use of direct speech, quotation, and not just pointing them out but saying how it adds to the overall persuasive appeal of the piece. For example, does a rhetorical question convey sarcasm? Does an exclamatory sentence show a shift in tone? Is there a quotation used for humour or to show emotion? So always talking about what effect that has on the piece as well. One last thing there, but I don't think any of you will have a problem with it. It said that some people commented on presentational devices if they were present, but obviously, you're only commenting on language, so you don't need to talk about anything which you could think was presentational. Higher tier then was the same. Functional writing was the same question. Good candidates talked about various implications of having the Olympic Games, cultural issues, philosophical issues and financial. It says that facts and figures were integrated from the stimulus material, but some candidates relied too heavily on the stimulus material. So again, watch out for that. Continuing on that vein, watch out for copying whole sections from the stimulus material without trying to incorporate it into your essay. But again, higher tier, that was less frequent than would have been at foundation. And the same as the aim in the foundation, it says you can disregard the information, but you just need to know how to include it. It's to help generate your ideas and almost to spark your thoughts in an exam situation, which can be difficult when you're confronted with an essay title. So it's there as a little catalyst to get you going, really, and you can include bits and pieces from it integrated into your own ideas. Section B was another piece of non-fiction. It was a different text than Foundation had received, and it was called Why I Hate Fashion. It was a female journalist describing the effect of fashion on her, and you had to say how she had used a style of writing that was lively and personal. Words and phrases, facts, opinions, and the dreaded sentence structuring and paragraphing. Your aim here then is to identify and comment on your linguistic features, which I think you're all very good at doing now, but then be able to infer what the impact of that is upon the reader as well. Weaker students were to engage with their personal opinions on fashion. It's not a discursive piece. They don't want your opinion about clothes or how much you spend a month. You're merely analysing the piece that the journalist has written. Again, as I said, sentence structure and paragraphing, watch out for that. It can cause problems, and even in the higher tier, they indicated that some people were just doing length of sentences and number of paragraphs. If you're going to talk about paragraphs, think about, yes, the length of the paragraphs, particularly if a paragraph just has one sentence in it, but also think about the content of the paragraph and how it aids the development of the piece. The face crook bit the one that you did in class. I mean, we looked at the subject in the different paragraphs. So you had a paragraph with the human interest story and a paragraph with expert opinion. So think about the content of the paragraph as well, not just the length and the types of sentences in it. And again, the aim there is just the same as in the foundation. The types of sentences that you might have, questions, direct speech, quotation, and how that affects the overall persuasive appeal of it. The examiners do recommend here that you use PEE as always. So for example, your point, the writer presents a series of rhetorical questions, evidence from the passage. How is my social life, you ask? What is my weight? And then explain. This is your important bit, your explanation. These questions develop a sense of rapport with the reader and equally confront them. So don't forget your explanation as well. So when you're doing your next Unit 2 piece, bear in mind what the chief examiners have said about both sections of the paper. And even if you're doing higher tier, you can learn from the comments from the foundation one, because you can see that they're quite similar. And bear this in mind for the next lesson when we're going to be doing a Unit 2 paper.